Good morning. Hey, Dre.
Hey, Dennis, good morning.
Hey, Cam, how's it going, buddy?
Man, it's going great. I made reservations this morning for my ski vacation, so I'm super excited.
Awesome. Where are you going?
We're going to Deer Valley, and then we're going to go to Jackson Hole.
Awesome, man.
I'm so excited.
That's perfect. I like your office, man.
Thanks, dude. We're working on it. We're getting it. We're getting it.
Pete's back. Hey, bud. Can't hear you.
Pete, you're muted. This is very unusual.
All right. Mitch, how you doing, buddy? Long time.
Dennis,
no
I am amazing. You know, I woke up and then the door opened and more opportunities came.
Excellent.
Pretty cool.
Okay, Mike, can you guys hear me?
Now we can
Hey,
hear
there
you.
you are.
All right, here we go. It's like my Ali-like return to the ring.
I know, right? Where the heck you been?
Oh, I've been all over the earth. That's what
All
happens
over the
when
earth.
you do a few little different moves. So
Right?
now we get this
Yeah.
going. I'm trying to get everything straightened out and running, and everybody's curious why their house isn't selling. So I told them I was
right?
going to sleep on it, and I had this miraculous dream, and the dream came to me and said, "You're overpriced. You think it's worth way more than it actually is." So I told one guy, I said, I know typically most people will say to you, it's price. And sometimes I agree with that, sometimes I don't. But I'm telling you right now, I do agree with it now. So got to figure out if you want to sell or not.
That's funny.
Chat's disabled.
Oh, here.
Yeah, chat doesn't look like it's working.
Just gotta set it all up.
Yep, I got it.
There's always challenges in life. Just how we handle them is what matters. I'm very philosophical today. I might be dying.
Oh, don't say that.
Don't say that.
Great. Matt, Battiater, and Randy need to get in as well.
Okay.
I'm seeing my cells on my body disappearing. That's because I've lost a few pounds. Trying to lead,
I got
practice my
two
really
Matt
bad stand up.
Here.
We always have two Matt Battiatas.
So
Yeah.
hopefully I picked the right one.
Brian too, Brian Yaber. Yeah, make sure you pick the right mat, right? Is that the right mat? That's the
I
right
got
mat.
the right mat. Okay, cool.
Good morning.
Hey, Matt, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah.
I'm doing great.
Matt, you're going to be integral for today's call, I think, because you're probably the one agent in this whole group that does this the best. So,
All right. Oh, it's a beautiful day.
yep.
We're pushing 95 here in Florida and sunny and no humidity. Well, the 100% humidity thing, but it doesn't feel like it. Only feels like 98% today.
What's the ocean temperature there? The ocean temperature's got to be pretty warm these days.
I think it runs around 78.
Oh, here.
I think we're usually around 78 degrees. Not bad.
That should be
I don't
awesome.
go in the ocean because I'm afraid of sharks.
Really?
Yeah, I've been here for 23 years. I've been to the beach. The beach is 7 minutes from my house, by the way, Cocoa Beach. I've been to the beach three. I've been to the beach 3 times, and I've been ankle high twice in the water.
Dude, you're like somebody that lives in the Swiss Alps and doesn't ski.
Right? I know, it's really sad.
Yeah, I'm good to go. All right, let's get it ramped up. Brian's
Pete, take it
on,
away.
Matt's on. It's good to see everyone. Randy's there. So today we're going to talk about how you can make a fortune off farming and really take your production to the next level. I'm super excited about this topic. Matt's probably the leader on this topic. He's been farming for a while. So I'm going to start with Matt. Matt, what do you feel people need to do to really get their production to the next level through farming? And why do you farm? That's my question too.
Yeah. So I think the most important thing with farming is consistency. I see a lot of agents that start farming an area. And when I say farming, I really mean it could either be through direct mail or digital marketing. Direct mail obviously is, a lot of people say is antiquated, but it really does work as long as you do it consistently. And you also have to put out, you have to figure out a good USP, unique selling proposition, that is going to make people pick up the phone and call you. What I like to do is I like to send out a combination of a market update telling them what's sold in the area. And I do that monthly, but I also include a unique selling proposition, and it does change. So for a long time, I was doing sell without listing. Right now I'm doing a lot of, get up to 3 competing, guaranteed cash offers. Basically, it'll bring you 3 competing cash offers on your home within 72 hours, right? And that's express offers. But it could be anything. It could be, your home sold in 29 days, or I'll, pay you $1,000, or I'll sell it for free, or, there's a million USPs, right? It can also be, we have buyers for your home. I think somebody a while back, Pete, maybe you were talking about doing, name your price, etc. But the whole deal is consistency, and it also has to be hyper local, right? You can't. I see a lot of agents making mistakes. First of all, I see a lot of people doing one mailer. I'll get a mailer at my house from an agent I've never heard of, and I get one, and it's not hyper local, and then I never hear from them again. And I'm sure they did that mailer and they said, it didn't work. Direct mail doesn't work. If you do direct mail consistently, you can literally take over a neighborhood. I was talking with somebody the other day, and there's a neighborhood where I'm just took a listing, and I used to live in the neighborhood, and I used to just work it like crazy. I would knock on doors, I would do mailers, and I had about like a 30% market share in that neighborhood. It was a neighborhood of 278 homes. And it looked like I worked for the builder. When you have a 30% market share, you own the neighborhood, literally. And you can do that. I think what's really important, like I say, is consistency. And then, you get a listing in a neighborhood, you do an open house, you knock on doors, you send out flyers. You don't need this neighborhood of 278 homes. When I was dominating that neighborhood, the average sales price was probably 600,000. Now it's close to 2 million, right? So you don't need to, if you can do really inexpensive postcards for 40, 50 cents a pop, including postage. So if you're talking about, let's call it 300 homes, say you spend $150 a month, you do that for a year, you're spending like what, $1,300, $1,400, and look at the return. So Dennis was saying the other day that I showed a mailer on a call a while back, and I gave everybody the contact information for the company that I use, and Dennis started doing that down in one of the neighborhoods that he works. And I saw, Dennis, you just got a great listing and put it into escrow for what, 2 point something million? Yeah.
2.4. Mhm.
Yeah. So the advice that I always give to agents is, whatever your budget is, it could be $200 a month, it could be $500 a month, whatever it is, figure out how many mailers you can send out at that budget, and then you got to do it consistently, right? And I think it's really important to focus on individual communities and neighborhoods. And when somebody's getting divorced or getting relocated, or just wants to sell, they want to downsize, any of those different things, you're going to get a phone call, right? So I'm a big believer in direct mail. You can also do it, digital marketing through EXP has this great program, Making It Rain. I think I'm going to start doing handwritten notes. There's a bunch of companies out there that will do handwritten notes. around sales in different communities. I'm going to do some experimenting with that. I was just talking with some agents about that yesterday. But, you know, direct mail, as antiquated as it sounds, it works like a charm if you do it right, is the bottom line. And the big thing is consistency, and also making yourself, you know, give them a reason to call you as opposed to somebody else. I don't think just sending out a market update and saying, and then the other thing is, you know, you put testimonials on there. You got to, you know, get as much information in there as you can, and then make your mailers look, if you're going after expensive homes, which in our market is pretty much everything, people want to see a quality mailer, right? So that's I don't want to take too much time, and it's not a very complicated message, but
That's great stuff, Matt.
works. Yeah.
Great stuff. So let me ask you, you know, there's a lot of people on this call from other companies.
Mm-hmm.
So what's Express Offers? Explain what that is.
So Express Offers is a platform that EXP created. It's an iBuyer platform. It basically, institutional investors can go onto Express Offers and they bid against each other to buy homes that EXP agents put on there. So I got a call the other day. In fact, I'm going out on an appointment today. Somebody said, hey, I saw your ad somewhere and we want to sell our house, but we want to sell it to an investor. We don't want to do any repairs. We're moving to Montana. And they said, you know, we've already talked with a real estate agent, but we're really curious what you can offer. And I said, great. You know, we have this great pro platform called Express Offers. And basically what that is, a platform where institutional investors bid against each other to buy your home. These are cash buyers. In order to qualify to be on this platform, these investors have to buy a minimum of 50 homes a year in San Diego County cash. So the reason we use those investors is they're very high volume and they have very, very slim profit margins. So they're going to pay more than the average and pretty much than any other investor in San Diego County. So, and by the way, we don't represent the investors. We just represent you. They can close in 2 weeks. They can close in a month. They can give you time to stay after close, and they buy it totally as is. They won't even do an inspection. They'll just do a walkthrough. Okay. So what I can do is I can come out, take a look at your house. I'll snap a few pictures with my phone. I pretty much know the formula that these investors use. So when I see your house, I'm going to be able to give you a pretty good idea of what they would pay, you know, ballpark what they would pay and what you would net. And, you know, the total commission we charge is 3%. So you save money on commissions. While I'm there, though, I can also tell you what your house would sell for on the open market and what you would net doing that. And there's no obligation. You can pick either direction or no direction. But I can just give you some options. How's that sound? And they go, wow, that's great. Come on out. So now I have a listing appointment, knowing full well that most of them are going to end up listing their house, right?
Oh, that's great.
But there are people out there that will use Express Offers because they have a fixer and they don't want to, you know, the parents died and they just want to get rid of the house. They don't want to fix anything. And that's perfect for Express Offers.
I love that.
Hey, Matt,
It doesn't sound like you rehearse that too often.
No, it doesn't. Yeah. And Matt, did you, so when you get the list, let's say they don't end up going with the cash offer and you do the listing, then do you do like a regular 5-6% listing at that point? And if
Yeah.
you've built rapport at that point that most of them will probably just sign the listing, right? Because
they'll usually pick that because, you know, investors, they have to make a profit. They have to rehab the house, right? So you're always going to get more selling it on the open market to a regular buyer.
Yeah.
And then what I try to do is sell them on how I can make that an easy process and net them more money, right? You know, I tell them selling real estate's a sprint. It's not a marathon. We can put it on the market for this much. I think we'll get X amount. And this is what you're going to net. And, you know, so it's really a great lead generator for listings, you know? I mean, I do TV commercials also that say, you know, guaranteed cash, 3 competing cash offers within 72 hours. Knowing that the majority of sellers out there are going to want to sell it to a regular buyer and not to an investor.
Yeah. Yeah. I literally, Brian and I, he's on the call. We had a referral, an estate sale referral given to us via email. So I had no contact besides an email for this potential client. And I emailed back the options that we can provide because of our access to investors, kind of what you're saying. And I literally kind of spelled out, hey, here's 3 options. And one of them, of course, the first one was the cash buyer, where we would take a reduced commission, blah, 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 right? Then we gave him an option. Hey, another buyer we can market to is an end not end user, a buy and hold investor who will pay more than the cash flipper, right? So if we get one of those, that could be a good option, and we'll take a reduced commission, kind of like the 3% concept. And then last option, if anything, we can put it on the market, and then it's 5% total, and we'll put it on the market. And they loved it. They replied to the email, and they were like, let's meet. And then we finally met, and we have the listing agreement signed with those options spelled out, right? And then we started bringing in investors, and now they're realizing, oh man, those offers are too low, right? And most likely we're going to end up listing it once the court approves in September, and we'll do a regular 5% listing.
Yeah.
That's already signed. So anyway, that's perfect, man.
I like that, putting all three options on the listing agreement. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's great. I think people like options in this type of market. I like that, Matt, what you said, because I know there's a lot of people on here, and with the economy kind of changing, most people are saying, well, Matt's got money. He's the #1 agent in the world for EXP out of 90,000 agents. He has the ability and the economic power to market a lot of different avenues. I don't. I'm just starting off, or I'm in my first year of real estate. But listen, guys, if you mailed 200 houses at 50 cents per postcard, that's $100. And for a year, that's 1,200. If you did it for 5 years, right? Think about this. Did it for 5 years, 6 grand. How many listings would you have to get to 5x your ROI on that 5 grand? And you would probably dominate that area, because a lot of people don't have the right message or call to action. I love the call of action with the 3 offers within 72 hours. I think that's really powerful. What other calls of action do you have for people to call you guys? And whoever wants to chime in can.
Well, I vary in my, like I say, I do one which is sell without listing. No signs, no open houses, no multiple days of showings. That's where we sell it in one weekend. People like that. But what do the seller think about? What it will appeal to a seller, right? So sellers they all want to sell their house as is, right? They don't want to do an inspection. I mean, they don't want to have to do a bunch of repairs. Maybe you can offer, I have a concierge program where I say, we'll pick your house up for you before it goes on the market, and you don't have to pay anything out of pocket. And all I did to do that, I don't put out the money. I just have a painter, a really good painter who agrees to get paid at close of escrow. I have a really good flooring guy who agrees to get paid at close of escrow. If it's a major remodel, EXP has a great partner, which is Curbio, that will do an entire remodel of the house, and same thing, bill it through escrow. Just think about what will be appealing to a seller, right? And that's your USP. Saying that we have buyers looking in your area. I mean, there's so many different things that will make a seller call you saying you offer free staging, right? So I have a great stager that I use, and I tell all my, I've advertised free staging. Now, what that means is she will come in with me and do a consultation with them, and not charge them anything for the appointment. Now, if they want her to stage the house and rent furniture, obviously they're going to pay for that. But, staging, especially with the slowing down of the market, staging is so important, right? And so I had a listing that I'm just taking right now, and it's almost a $2 million listing, and it's an older couple that lives there, and it looks like your grandparents' house. And I brought in my stager to do a consultation, and it's much better for it coming from her, telling them that all their furniture is pretty ugly, and that we need to move stuff around and, swap stuff out and so forth. It's going to make my job a lot easier. It's not that expensive. And I think, I haven't heard back from them as far as whether they're going to agree to do it, but I think that they will. So that's another great thing, is to say, staging.
So what do you, Matt, so your marketing around staging is just that you bring in a free stager consultation? Is that?
Yeah. Yep. And so her time is free. In other words, she'll come in there, walk through their house. They literally walk through every room and they put, blue contractor's tape on stuff that's got to get out of there, right? So if the seller wants to say, okay, well, I'll do this myself. I'll move all this furniture into the garage. I'll hire some guys and, do that. And I can move this around. I can take the pictures down. That's fine. If they want her to do it and her crew to do it, which usually they do. And if they want, her to bring in furniture, they pay for that. When I also have a really inexpensive stager that I sometimes use that'll bring in furniture on a little small house or a condo for like, $500. And in the past I've paid for that, but now I don't do that. I just tell them the stager's time I cover. But if you end up wanting to use their crew, of course you have to pay that. But it's worth its weight in gold because it makes it so much easier to sell the house, So it's a win-win. And she gets a lot of business from it.
Yeah, Matt, somebody asked in the chat, where can they get 50-cent postcards mailed out? They said, what printer?
Almost any company. Gosh, I'll figure it out and put it in the chat. But there's so many companies. Almost any company will mail out postcard. 5.5 by 8.5 by 5.5 postcards for about 50 cents.
Okay. And then somebody else asked, what prevents the seller from backing out once the work is done, say by Curbio or your concierge service or hiring all the contractors?
Well, they sign a contract with my painter and the flooring guy and all that kind of stuff that says they're responsible for it, even if if their house doesn't sell.
Who draws up that contract? Is it the
contract?
The service provider?
I'm doing this work on, let's face it, if they don't pay the contractor, he's going to put a mechanic lien on their house. So
right.
I have never had anybody not pay the contractor, even if they decided not to sell their house or, it didn't sell or whatever, I mean, paint, as we all know, is the best bang for your buck on a house. Right. And so it's a great thing when I can say, look, I've got a great painter and he can come out and give you a bid. He's really, he does great work. I've used him for years, and he will actually bill the job through escrow. So you don't have to come out of pocket on anything. And they're like, wow, that's incredible. Right. So it's easy to do. Most painters, and those guys are all slowing down now. So most painters will be like, sure, I'll do that. I can get paid at close of escrow,
How about what other unique selling propositions does everybody on this call have that you've used or utilized in the past that have gotten you listings or even attracted buyers when you're farming? Because sometimes it'll go to a rental and somebody's sick of paying rent, right?
You could do like a risk-free, this is Craig on my team. He sends out this flyer.
The risk-free listing system?
Yeah, or just, cancel your listing at any time, right? Something of that nature. Because right now in this market, some sellers are a little freaked out that their places aren't selling and they're seeing their neighbor's house is not selling. So, they might think they're picking the wrong agent, right?
Is he doing that through REMS?
No, he does that through Dan Hellbush here in San Diego. I think he used him before.
Okay. So Dan does the same type of thing as REMS?
Yeah.
Okay. And what do they usually cost per unit to go out for farming?
I think he's paying about 50 cents for one of these postcards.
Okay.
That's nice.
That's good.
The other thing, Pete, I would mention, and that everybody on this call can use, is use statistics, right? Numbers are great. So even if you've only sold one house in the last year, but it's sold for, above asking price, for example, right? Say, my average listings sell for, 2% above the board average, or, 102% of asking price, or, create a bidding war on your home, or anything that is going to get a seller to pick up the phone and call you as opposed to somebody else.
Yeah, I like that. Brian Yarber's been really quiet. How did you usually pick neighborhoods or certain areas to farm? Was it based on location or price range? Or
that's a great question, Pete. Actually, when I started out, my first farm was a neighborhood where my parents lived, and I just knew everybody. And then what I did was I started to realize that everybody who lived in that neighborhood said they were going to die in that neighborhood. So there was very little turnover. So I understood the value of market share, like we heard it with Matt. And I began to start to look at the MLS and look in zip codes and find where there were high turnover rates, or where there was at least a 10% annual turnover in a neighborhood of 200 homes. So that meant 20 homes would either went on the market, or went on the market, came off the market, sold on the market, whatever. And I started to look at that and identify where those markets were. And then I started to kind of explore marketing, and then where I brought in a partner to market in those. And that was, I'm talking 20 years ago is when I learned this. But what I did was I found out that there are certain neighborhoods and certain marketplaces that have a high turnover rate. And those were more successful places. And you'll see that with a lot of people in Santee, which is a market where there's a lot of turnover with military and a lot of turnover with smaller homes, people moving into bigger homes. So you always want to look at the area you want to farm and look and see what has it done in the last 10 years. And then look at the year over year statistics and see if there's any dominant agent in there farming it who specifically is doing 30% market share. Do you want to compete against Matt Battiata, or do you want to go, 3 streets over and maybe start? So going back to the initial message, farming, first of all, means you're about ready to sow some seeds, and seeds are not cheap if you're sowing in certain marketplaces. So you got to realize that if you're going to do postcards or everyday door, which is a US Post Office opportunity, go to US, it's every door. I think it's
Direct.
Yeah,
Every door direct.
every direct door. Yeah. So that's nationwide. Check that out. It's a very inexpensive opportunity for you to mark. But then what you do is if you're going to do a mailer, then make sure that if your budget doesn't allow you to mail every single month, don't waste that first mailer. Knock that neighborhood about 2 weeks after you mail it. Whatever's on there, be consistent with your voice and be consistent with what you're farming for. Because everybody assumes farming's for listings, but it's not. You can farm. I'll give you an example. There's a guy who farms a complex of a PUD complex that has mixed use. It's got a condo attached units and then a PUD attached to it. Every single month, this guy sends a mailer to every door in that complex. There's about 240 in this development. And all it is an invitation to come to a free buyer seminar, because he knows that almost 30% of the people living in that farm are renting. And so what he does is he pulls out gold from this market. And then what he's doing is he's specifically speaking to them in his message. He'll say, hey, do you live in the townhomes at Woodlands? Do you currently have a 2-bedroom, 2-bath with no garage paying $1,800 a month? Did you know that you could buy a home with a garage and your mortgage could be $1,800 a month? He knew his market so well, he spoke into every single person's mindset of when they looked at his mailer. Yeah, that's me. I do live here. I do pay that. Wow, I'd love a garage. And he gets calls. What he does is then he moves people out and into other marketplaces, but he also gets a lot of listings in there from absentee owners, because guess what? When tenants move, there's absentee owners. So that's specific, but know your message, know your farm. So if you're going to plant seeds, make sure you know what you're going to reap from those seeds, and then be consistent with your message. Make sure you door knock. I learned that early on in my career. My very first listing was because an agent pitched a buyer need. She said, I got a builder who's looking for an R2R property who wants to build a second home. I found an R2R neighborhood and I knocked every single door in that neighborhood until I found a guy who happened to be there working on his back unit because he lost his tenant. Next thing you know, he's like, Brian, you bring me the right price and I'll sell this property. I told the agent who had that buyer need that pitched it, that buyer drove by, he identified it, he loved it. We put a deal together that the agent brought an offer over for more than the guy told me he'd sell it for. And I didn't even have a listing. I just walked in the kitchen. I said, hey, listen, before we can present this offer to you, let me list your property for a one-time showing right now tonight, because I know what you told me you wanted. I think she's going to exceed that because I told her. And sure enough, we closed that deal. That was my entry into listings. And I loved that. I loved it. It was fun. It was exciting to me. And that spun off into a lot more of that. So going back, walk and knock, especially walk and knock. If you don't like to knock your neighborhoods, then it's going to be difficult to
Get out of real estate. Get out of real estate.
Yeah, yeah, because I think it's important because I've gone into homes where I've seen another realtor face on the refrigerator because they dropped like somebody paid somebody to go out and hand out a bunch of notepads and put them on everybody's doorstep. And then that notepad is something those people use to call me because my phone number was on another. Like I was in Remax at one time and I walked in and there was a Century 21 top agent with his notepad on their refrigerator with my name and number on his to call me to list their house. How does that happen, right? So be consistent, make sure your message is consistent, and know your seasons, right? Know your seasons of farming. You're going to have to touch people a lot of times before you really get results. But like Matt said, don't be that one postcard person and then just walk away and say that doesn't work. You don't even invest in one postcard if you're not going to invest in probably 6 months or a year's worth, if it's legitimately true farming activities you want to do. And remember, farming isn't just for sellers. When we're talking to investors, we let investors know if they have a real estate license, we farm investors. One of the things I let investors know is that they talk to so many people that they forget that if they're licensed, what a referral looks like and how to refer to other agents. So if you're an investor or you're an agent who doesn't have confidence yet, never lose an opportunity to take a referral and give it away, because 4 referrals equals 1 commission. 4 25% referral fees equal a commission. You can have more referrals in your pipeline you never dreamed of if you focused on them. That's all I got.
Great. And I think you have to have sustainability. You know, Brian, you made a really good point there that when you enter this, you can't just be fly by night. You have to really map it out and have a strategy and say, okay, I'm going to do this for 24 months. This is how much money I need. And these are the results I expect to get. And sometimes it happens sooner than later, but you have to be consistent. You can't just send out one and where it doesn't arrive on the same day or the same week each month. It's got to be consistent with how you do it. If you're missing months, you're not going to get traction. And what I see, the mistake that a lot of agents make is they don't have the sustainability to really farm an area, right? If they can't walk the area and drop off themselves and they're doing mailers or they're doing 4x4 color brochures or, you know, front and back big postcards that are being mailed, they don't designate enough money for their marketing and for their message and for their unique marketing proposal to get listings. And that's a big thing.
Hey,
You know,
Pete,
you need to have a budget.
you brought something up too. I forgot to share this. One of the things I did early on also to build my confidence when I didn't have listings in my farm is I called the agent who listed a property within my farm, especially ones that had area codes that were out of the area or they weren't 619, which is my zip code or area code. I would call them and say, hey, listen, I see you got a new listing in my farm. That's awesome. I know them, you know, I know they're leaving, they're moving to North County, but that's my farm. And I'd love to hold your property open if you would let me. Like I would partner with somebody who just came in and, you know, unfortunately listed in my farm, but that didn't mean I couldn't benefit from being in that farm because I could still walk the neighborhood and say, hey, I'm holding an open house. And I did that consistently. I was holding open houses on other brokers if your broker will let you.
Right. And a lot of times what I would do is I'd call people and say, you know, have a really good rapport with them and say, hey, congratulations. What a great listing. You did a great job, right? Everybody wants to hear that. And I said, I would love to bring you a buyer. Are you open to that? Yes. Okay. So I do a mailer there every month. I would love to market it for you. And I'll put right in there acknowledging you and giving you credit for the listing, but that allows me to bring you a buyer. Would you be open to that? And I'll even send it over to you so you improve it before I send it out.
Perfect.
So piggyback on that is if in your farm, you have an investor that's flipping a home, right? There is another way that you can market that property. So same thing goes back to getting permission, right? From the investor, if you are able to, you know, do some promotion about their property. And most investors would be open to it, right? Unless they have a really good agent on their team. But believe it or not, many don't, right? There's a lot of investors that do maybe 1, 2, 3 deals a year. That's it. They can't sustain a realtor on their team, right? So identify also those type of properties in your farm And usually there will be a marketing, like, maybe their company marketing sign on the front, and maybe not. But ask the contractor, right? Walk in there and like, hey, who's the owner? I would love to talk to them. I might have some interested buyers, right? Get the contact of the investor, build, figure out what is the opportunity there, and also ask, hey, if you don't have a realtor, I would love to, have the opportunity to promote your property. This is my farm, right? So mention that. And here's what we would do, right? Because now if there is a property that just got bought by an investor in your farm, guess what neighbors want to know, right? And it's usually the ugliest house on the block that gets bought, right? With an investor offer. And neighbors they're always curious, like, what is going on? This is a freaking eyesore. They probably have stories for days about that property, how much they hated, who lived there, blah, 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 right? But they are curious who owns it now. They might not even know that someone bought it until the construction crew shows up, right? A week later. So you could be the person of great news, right? For the immediate neighbors, right? I'm talking about like literally like the 30 houses, right, on the street that every one of them has to drive by this eyesore every morning and evening, right? When they go to work and come back, right? You walk those neighbors. So it's very simple. And you create a flyer, very simple flyer, doesn't have to be anything fancy, right? You can be like, hey, by the way, this property, whatever, 123 Main Street, was just bought by this company. They're going to be renovating it and selling it. So I just first want to make you aware, right, what's happening. So that checks off the nosy neighbor curiosity. And if you hear any disturbance to this neighborhood, please let me know. I am the voice of this house for this investor. I want to help you keep things under control. So, because you never know, some contractors, right? This is now, of course, if you're talking to them, right? You're not going to put all this in a flyer, right? In a flyer, it's more very clean. Hey, I want to be the voice for this property. So if you hear anything that you're being disturbed by, call me. Period, right? So it's but then when you actually get to talk to them, then you can go deeper, right? We're like, look, I know how contractors are. Sometimes, they'll leave stuff in the front of the yard, that doesn't appeal to the neighborhood. I don't want that to be the case. So please let me know. You're not bothering me. I'm going to let the owner know who's renovating this property, and we'll get things under control for you guys. If you hear him starting too early, or maybe doing, or working too late, right? These are all the things that do happen, guys, on investment properties that are being rehabbed that annoy the neighbors. So you're now the good guy, right? Coming in with like, hey, I'm your savior here, right? And then I would transition into, hey, by the way, if you know anyone that is thinking about selling, you might want to tell them to hold off, because this investor and us, they'll set the next highest price in this neighborhood, because this will be a fully renovated home selling right here. So if you do know someone, like, let them know like that this is what's happening, and connect me if you can. That's fine too, because so now you're not asking them, hey, are you thinking about selling? Like, no. And then you might find out like, wait a minute, I might be wanting to sell, right? So you're not asking them, you're asking, do you know someone? And if you do, let them know the good news, right? And then the third thing would be like, or maybe you have a friend or a family member that wants to move to the neighborhood. Like, let me know. You get to pick your neighbor. Like, let me know. Like, I would love to help you guys out and bring that family member, or, so if you know someone that wants to move into this neighborhood, like, I'm here to help. Whatever it is you guys need, I'm here to help. And that's it. So you're not literally selling anything to that person, right? And you can take this, what I just said, and then create 3 bullet points about this, right? So, hey, if they're disturbing you, call me. Hey, if you're planning on selling, you might want to wait. We'll set the next highest price point in this neighborhood. Hey, if you have a family member or neighbor to move in, let me know. I'm here to help, right? And maybe we can do this off market, right? With no competition. Boom. So you got some unique selling propositions right into that flyer. So if someone doesn't open the door, you just leave that there, right? And then your contact information is on there. So that's another way where you can spin, farming, but now with a direct way dealing with investors, right? And leveraging investments.
It's great stuff, because it makes you the specialist in that area, and you send the impression that you're caring about the neighborhood. You're the go-to guy in the neighborhood, right? You're solving their problems.
That's it. You got to solve the problems. And then another thing I'll add would be is the best open houses are investment properties because they're beautiful, they're staged, they're vacant, right? So same thing. So reach out to the ones that have already been flipped and are on the market, like Brian said, right? And see if you can host those open. And if they already have agents on the team doing those open houses, especially the first one, which would be, let's say, Saturday or Sunday when it first gets listed, that's fine. But I can tell you, because we've been there, most good investors that do volume, that agent cannot sustain holding an open house there every single weekend if they have 5 other properties hitting the market in a month. So guess what? They're going to need people like you, agents like you, to continue to hold open houses because an investor, they want their houses open every day why not? Why? It doesn't cost them anything. So offer that, like, hey, you might have an agent already that you work with, and that's great. I don't want to step on your agent's toes. I'm just here to offer myself to do open houses on any day that they don't want to do it. And it could be a weeknight, it could be whatever. You get your foot in the door. That's all you're doing, right?
That's a good point, but keep in mind, guys, if they do have an agent, go to the agent first, not the investor, and get permission from that agent. Because a lot of times agents are kind of lazy and they don't want to do it more than a couple days a week. So say, you know, I'm not asking to do it on Saturday or Sunday. I really specialize in succeeding at open houses from Monday through Friday between 12 and 6. And I would like to set up shop there. Do you have a hotspot there? Is there internet there? If not, I bring my own. And that's how I've had successes in the past. And then say to that agent, I'm not going to overshadow you. This is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to report to you as if I work for you on what is happening at those open houses. Now, if the investor comes and talks to me, I'll revert the investor back to you on all information about the open house.
Yep.
That's how you have to do that, because there's a lot of great open houses from 12 to 6 on weekdays, because people who walk into open houses on weekdays are looking to buy. So that's a great way to kind of farm. Also, a lot of neighbors want to come in to see what's going on because they're comparing if they should sell their house. And that's an easy farming tactic too. So that's a great one. Who else has another one?
And I would say, and imagine,
this will make a fortune.
Imagine you're sending postcards like Matt is saying, right? And now you're also doing open houses. So your signs are everywhere every week in the same farm. Like you are the guy. Like you could be the guy within a couple months, like period. Because they're getting your postcards and now they're seeing you're doing open houses everywhere in that area. So anyway, I'm done.
Whoa.
So Pete, I could chime in a little bit here, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
So consistency, guys, is the key, right? So, you know, Mitch and I talk about this about internet marketing for pay-per-click leads, right? Agents do, you know, $200 for 1 month, they get no sales and they think it sucks, right? And they quit. So same with these mailings, right? My first 3 months of this mailing that Matt Battiato told me about, nothing really happened. And then all of a sudden, now I get a listing that's in escrow. So I'm going to do the math for you real quick, guys, right? So don't quit. Number one, don't be that agent like Pete spoke about. You send out 2 mailings for 2 months and then just quit. I mean, that's foolish, right? That's a waste of money. This one listing, you're gonna make $55,000 on, right? $700 a month. That's what I paid this company. That's 78 months of marketing divided by 12 months. That's 6.5 years of free marketing to this one neighborhood. 6.5 years, this one listing paid for it. So do you think I'm going to dominate that neighborhood? You bet your ass. So, you know, you have to have that mentality, like just stick with it. Don't give up. Once you get that one sale, use that money towards future marketing. So Craig, who works on my team, we're next to this complex called Seahawks. Craig sold, you know, maybe 5 listings in there previously, and he would send a mailing out, nothing happened, send it out, nothing happened. I told him to stick with it. Okay. Now he just took 2 listings for $2 million in there, or roughly around $2 million. And he dominates. He sold maybe 10 places there in the last 18 months because he's doing it consistently. I told him to up it to 2 times a month. And now I told him to up it to 3 times a month. So pretty much he's going to dominate it. No other agent's going to have a chance to even sneak in there because everybody knows him now. to get his mailing every other week, right? So, you know, be really consistent, you guys. That's the key. I can say, don't give up. You know, agents, we're in this mentality these days. You know, I have a 15-year-old and I can see it, where they want immediate results. TikTok. You know, this is the long game. Stick with it, right? Stick with it. Do the mailings consistently. Give it a year. Set a budget for a year. Don't do a budget for 2 months, because you're going to fail and you're going to be like every other agent. So that's the one tip I can give you. That's very valuable, actually.
It's a great tip. Dennis was doing a TikTok dance in the middle of Bird Rock yesterday, trying to get some instant gratification. Hey,
Really good
Cameron,
at it.
so when you are farming, what really has worked for you in the past that has 10x your results?
I think you designated me there. Yes.
Yes.
Cool, buddy. So yeah, I think I'm going to reiterate what everybody has said. The most important thing. Hey, Pat, how are you? Most important thing of all of this.
It's Jeanette, but that's close.
Hey, Jeanette. Sorry, I seen a hand. I thought it was Pat. So anyways, I'm going to reiterate what everybody said here, and consistency is key. Don't do this for a month. It's a waste of money. If you're going to do it for that, do it at least 6 months, really target a year. I'm also using Real Marketing for You. I think quite a few of us are. It seems like a great system. Somebody, I think, linked it in the chat there. But also remember that farming isn't just sending out postcards. We've been through a lot of this. I'm going to kind of go over it again, because this is what I was going to say. So I want to just go over it. You know, door knocking is really important. Once you send out your farm, you can get to door knocking, and make sure that when you are door knocking, you're leaving something if you can't talk with anyone. We leave an 8.5 by 11 trifold. It's gorgeous. It's big. It shows everything that we've sold. It makes us look like we're selling the world. That is obviously the goal, especially as you're creating new farms, is you want to make sure that, as you, I think Randy was saying, or Dennis was saying, every other week they're getting something, and you can really saturate your farm quickly. I think if you're trying to get it going in 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, saturating it quickly, but also remembering that you're not expecting results in a month, or you're not expecting results in 2 months, is really important. When we do most of our door knocking, our scripts are just sold. You know, hey, we just sold a home in your neighborhood. We have lots of buyers. We had multiple offers on it still, even in this market. You know, who do you know that might be looking to sell? That's kind of our door knocking thing with our scripts. And then, as what was that, Randy, you were saying you got into it, man, that was gold, you guys. I'm actually going to re-listen to some of that, what he said there, because the way that he was able to build rapport with someone, not asking directly, even, you know, I am the guy that's looking out for you. I'm the community manager for this build. That just blew my mind. Absolutely love that. So I'm going to be implementing that. But then remember also too, community events, HOAs. If you have HOAs, you can go to these community type events and be present, be a face there, talk to everybody, have your name badge on, have your company shirt on, let them know that you're there representing, you know, one of the sales or one of the deals. And man, if for people that go to those events, they absolutely love a realtor that'll also show up at those type of events. What else do I got here for you? Matt said you could take over a neighborhood. You absolutely can. You know, in 6 months, if you're saturated and then you keep working it and you're doing the door knocking, you're doing the events, you're doing the mailers, you can take over take over a whole neighborhood and be the guy, be the man, be the guy that when they think of realtors, they say, even if they have a magnet or they have a calendar or something on their fridge, they're like, well, why don't we call the guy that's been selling all this? Even if it's just someone else is listening that you held an open house on and you had 30 signs out all over the roads, you became in their minds the superstar agent. You have to remember, everybody, that most people have really short-term memories. They call who they've seen last, they call who's on their mind, they call who's active in their area. And if you're the guy that when you are doing your business and they just decide today's the day, if your signs are everywhere, you are going to have a much better chance than if you're just hoping that one mailer a month gets it done. So that's really it, guys. I'm really kind of just going over what everybody else said. One thing really important, choosing your farm. If you are just starting up a farm, make sure you look at who is farming in that area. If there's one agent that does 80% of the sales, I would definitely maybe consider choosing a different neighborhood, because it's going to be very saturated. You're going to try to break into a market. Just look at the competition before you choose your market. I would not try to jump into the most expensive neighborhood in all of your area. I would try to pick something that has a high turnover rate. I think turnover rate's probably even more important than price if I was choosing a new farm or a new market to start farming. just because obviously the goal is to get selling, getting money coming in, especially if you're just setting up a farm. I think most newer agents are trying to get sales or trying to get stuff coming in. So higher turnover rates are better. So anyways, you guys, I don't have a ton for you. Real
Hey,
marketing
Cameron.
for you, 8.5 by 11. Yes, sir.
Cameron, you're like now the new social media wizard as of this year. The guy that was anti-social media to now being the rock star. Would you say, like, if I pick a farm, will Facebook give me the ability, as an example, or let's pick Facebook, give me the ability to market specifically to the people only with an ad in that farm, right? I would assume the answer is yes, because I've done some Facebook ads. It's been a while. 2, that could be a very, very cheap investment to do so, because you're going to only be targeting, I don't know, like 400 homes or 500 homes. So, and if so, what would you market, being now our, social media wizard?
So Facebook, you can target. Now they have changed a lot of rules and guidelines because of politics, ethics, and that kind of things, where you can't target certain demographics and that kind of things, or income levels and that kind of stuff, but you can draw maps. Now we have done a lot of that. And I will say that we had not had a ton of success with it, because we have found that we were just doing better with general pay-per-click type stuff, or more less targeted. When we started trying to over target specific neighborhoods, we were not getting the results, because what we found is that it's more about the communication. It's getting in front of them, getting, door knocking, getting into the events, getting to the, we have a lot of meet and greets and that kind of stuff at the pools and the community events. That stuff worked a lot better than trying to directly target on Facebook. In 2018, I spent about 80 grand with a company trying to specifically lock down Facebook ad targeting, and it didn't work for me. So to answer that question, yes, you can dig into it, do a little bit of split testing and see if it works maybe in your neighborhoods. It's just down here. You have to remember that in Southwest Florida, we're like 85% of the population doesn't live in here. So if you try to target a neighborhood, you're getting 15% of the people that are actually here. Everyone else is in New Jersey or Michigan, all that. So it very well might work. I'm just saying that for us, it didn't produce like we wanted to.
I just think like, it's anything with farming, it's all about compound effect, right? So if you do mailers, right, at an effective, 50 cents a piece, then you add open houses, right, in the neighborhood, which is basically almost free, right, unless you have some appetizers and things like that. Then you layer on top, a farm Facebook ad cannot be expensive. I mean, I'm not saying necessarily that you're going to get a listing from that ad. It's more about people seeing you everywhere, right? And keeping it very cost effective. So you could literally create one ad that you just keep running. That's it. And all its purpose is for your face to be in front of them if they happen to be on Facebook, right? So they could keep, like you said, it's that people have short-term memory, right? Like, oh man, this is the guy. Like, I just saw his open house sign. Oh man, I just got his mailer. Oh man, he's following me. He's on Facebook now, talking to me, right? Like, that's the idea.
That's the total idea, and it's called retargeting, and it's allegedly it's supposed to work. I mean, obviously Coca-Cola, these mega corporations do it, so it does work. We just were not able to, in one solid year of doing it, find results that made it worthwhile the amount we were spending. But again, we are in a unique market here in South Florida because people don't live here. Most of you guys are in areas that people are living in most of the year, and if you targeted one neighborhood and you were remarketing to just those people living in that area, it could be very effective where you get a new listing or you're doing an open house. You can even advertise your open house just to that specific market. Like I said, we just didn't have good luck with it. I don't say don't do it. Just, keep that in mind. We tried it for a solid year and it just didn't materialize down here.
I just wanted to chime in for a minute. Does anybody have any analytics on when you mail and then you call the neighborhood in the success rate or the ROI on that, just compared to just mailing and not following up with a call? Because, the other thing I want to point out to people before I get to Mitch, and Mitch is going to take us home. All right, Mitch, you're like the encore in the band.
I like being the encore.
You could do other things too in that area to really be the specialist. It's not just about farming to get business. You could be the person that informs them of community events or civic projects that are going on, or you have a weekend where you are recycling electronics or doing yard sales or having community events for the neighborhood as far as holidays or summer parties and things like that. That's how you really get belly to belly and you humanize the farming. Go ahead, Cam.
One of the best, most, well, obviously it wasn't even, I didn't do it for farming sake. In 2019, when COVID happened, I went around my biggest farm, which is also the neighborhood that I live in, the HOA I live in here. And I told everyone, if you need groceries delivered, you don't feel comfortable going out, let me know. And I just gave them a card. And I have gotten so many calls. Hey, you gave me a card 2 years ago, 3 years ago. What do you think of the market now? And I really went into it not trying to do it as a farm business thing, but of course I had it in the back of mind, give out your card. I have really nice cards, of course. And that is produced better than anything because it was genuinely just out of contribution. So keep that in mind too, you guys.
No, that's great stuff. Mitch, what did you do in the past, or what are you doing now to farm?
Yeah, I'll give you the best thing I've ever learned. I'm going to do a 20-minute seminar in 3 minutes.
Can we do
So,
part two? Hey, Mitch, also
Yeah.
I think we have a lot more to talk about. So Pete,
Yeah, we could-
something to consider is doing part two of this. So Mitch, you don't have to rush.
Okay.
Leave
So
some
first of all, I
cliffhangers
want to
for
touch
us,
on,
okay?
yeah, the most important part of anything, you can do all this stuff and waste all your money if you don't understand turnover rate. So let me explain turnover rate and what that means. Because I know there's a lot of people who are saying that, but nobody knows what that means. That means how many homes sold in the last 12 months based on how many homes are in that neighborhood. So you take a picture of 1,000 homes and you look at how many sold under contract, listed in that 12-month period, and that'll give you a turnover rate. So for instance, if there's been 40 homes that have sold in a 1,000 home neighborhood, so sold under contract, pending, active, that's a 4% turnover rate. Personally, I don't like to do less than 6 to 8%. A little more challenging right now, but that's really where we like to look for that. The last one we did, one of our agents, there was a 12%, which is a great turnover rate. I got the best advice on farming from a guy named Jack. 2003, I sold a house to a guy sight unseen, and he goes, "Oh, I gotta call my neighborhood realtor." I'm like, "Oh, who's your neighborhood realtor?" He goes, "Jack." I go, "Can I have Jack's phone number?" So I go, "Jack, one of my agents is going to call you to list his house," and I go, "But don't want a referral fee. What I want to know is how you became the neighborhood realtor, because that is the ultimate goal of every realtor, is being the neighborhood realtor, right?" So he goes, "This is what I did." He goes, "Every month, every week for the first 8 weeks when I broke into this neighborhood, 1,000 homes, by the way, with the HOA and a clubhouse, I did a mailer 8 weeks in a row, and then every week after that." And we didn't get into what the first 8 weeks were, and so I'm not going to get into that, but I want to talk about the every other week. By the way, this conversation happened at the end of his second year. Okay. So he did every other week. So once a month would be stats for the area, because we all love our stats. Everybody likes to see what's for sale, what's been under contract, what's closed. And then every other week was the top 10 things to do the following month in the area. So you're doing a little bit of both. You're giving stats, you're giving community and all that stuff. And he's ultra consistent. He goes, he does it every other week. Now the cost is a lot less now to do this now than it used to be. And I got more stuff. So he also did every quarter, he did an event in the clubhouse. He's done a Super Bowl parties. He's done travel. He did a travel thing. He did a financial planning thing. Wasn't all real estate related, but he's the sponsor of everything going on in the clubhouse. The other thing he did, which I love, he got permission from the HOA to maintain the front entrance. He goes, the front entrance is full of flowers. He goes, every week I'm in there putting flowers in, taking flowers out, waving to everybody as they go in and out, which is great. And then finally, and this is what I think Randy said, you have to have a multi-pronged approach to this. It's not just send out postcards. And then this is my favorite part. Every person that, whenever, there's always a house in the neighborhood that's kind of going to hell because the husband died and needs a paint job. He's done this twice in this 2-year period. He went out and sent postcards to everybody and looked for volunteers. He said, I got 10 to 15 volunteers, and we painted their house for free. So here's the numbers, because I'm a numbers guy. Right? At the end of his second year, we didn't talk how many buyers he got. He sold 50 listings in 2 years from that neighborhood, 50 listings. So he controlled the market, right? He is truly the neighborhood realtor. The dollar figures, he spent $18,000 to bring in $750,000 in commission.
Boom. Mic drop.
Right?
One.
Like I did that in 4 minutes.
And we're going to bring that to a close. We're going to do A Fortune in Farming Part 2. Are we doing it next Thursday? We're at Build. So I don't believe we'll be able to be on. Do you guys want to do it or do you want to pick it up the following week?
Yeah, I think it's just me and you at Bill, Pete.
Okay, so these guys can do it. You guys should do Farming Part 2. And then if we need Farming Part 3, Mitch will have his Ali-like return on the week after that.
Exactly. Cool.
Listen,
Good
great
job, guys.
stuff, you guys. I'll tell you right now, anybody who's on this Zoom, do your friends a favor, invite them. I don't care what company they're in. I don't care their experience. I don't care how long they've been in real estate. I take notes every week. I learn something. I'm just speaking from my point of view. But if you're not on this Zoom, you're not interested in 10Xing your production. And that's what it's all about. How can you 10X your production to get your time back, to make more money, help more people, and have a more balanced life and get out of the grind? Unless you own a coffee shop, that's the only time it works. So
Right.
keep that in mind. Everybody, great stuff, great flow today. Love all
See you
you guys, and we'll see you soon. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, see
Later.
you next week, bud.
Yep.
Okay.
See you guys.
Bye, guys.
Great stuff, Randy. Great stuff, Randy. See you guys.
Later, Karen.